Alrighty, it's me again, real quick, and I just want to explain a little bit about narrative therapy in group. And so it's a lot like solution focused. A lot of the things are very similar. A big part of it is that the meaning of life is in our interpretive stories, and so we talk about maybe things from our past, and then we can look at the purpose of like looking at the stories from the past is finding the things that were working for us and applying them to what's going on in the here and now. And once again, it's a really big part of narrative therapy is to help members to reestablish personal agency from their problems. So once again, that idea that people are not the problem is the problem. And so another part of it is that we live our lives by the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we tell others. And so a big part of that is that's explaining our realities to other people and how we've come into being and the things that make us who we are. And so in the group setting is what we do is we help the group members to modify their beliefs and values and interpretations to fit their new reality. And it's important that this is done without imposing your values or anyone else's values upon them. It's about making it so those beliefs and values are working for them and helping them to change and overcome their problems. And once again, another really big part of narrative therapy is the therapist separating the problem from the person, which again is called externalization. So an example of this idea is something that we do in practicum, and it's called Emotional Skill Building Curriculum, which was actually developed by Dr. Pickover. Yay! And so some copies will be handed out to you. And so if you're looking at it, I'm looking at the first page. It's session 6 in overreaction and coping tools. And so then the handout given is to help the group members to externalize their problem. And so, for example, they have them all come up with a word or whatever, or a color or an object to describe their anger. And I mean, you don't even have to do that. Another way you can do it is when you're questioning group members, you could say something like, okay, well, how did your anger influence you to make this decision? Or how did, I said that wrong. Don't say how did anger influence you to make this decision? And let's see, another example would be, I'm just going to look it up so I'm saying it right. How does anger trick you into letting it become so powerful? What does the anger require of you? And so really viewing anger as like this object rather than you being angry or you're angry. So if you go back to that page, so there's that first part, and it says pick a name for the problem: Sparky, Fido, Fluffy, whatever you want to do. And so, and then the next part is they'll say, okay, now that problem has a name and it's now not a part of you anymore, and so you get to put it somewhere else. And so the example on this first page is to put it in a safe, or to put it in the attic, or put it wherever so it can't control you anymore. And then you process that with the individuals, finding out how that problem can be put in the attic or the safe or whatever it is as they're putting it. So on the next page is session 4, developing and identifying ranges of emotions. And so one of the things that they do is they identify like the anger as a race car. And so like the race car talks about being like angry and how did your race car go 1 to 60 miles per hour. And anyways, that's just kind of talking about how you react when you're speeding, and which is in turn describing those angry feelings. So that's just another example of externalizing the problem. And you can look at the other parts of the handout, and there's just all these different things, like having them identify their feelings and having them to give themselves a speeding ticket for every time that they did speed. And it's just all about making sure that problem is separated for them, and that's done by viewing the problem as something else. So, and oh, there is another slide. Oh, anyways, so use of externalization of the problem, exactly what I just talked about. And yep, that's all.